Hello. Okay, welcome to my top 10 favourite movies of 2023. I just want to start off with saying there are still movies that have yet to be released in the UK that I haven't seen, those being The Poor Things, The Iron Claw and The Holdovers, movies that I'm really looking forward to checking out, just we haven't seen them yet. So this list could have looked slightly different, especially if I'd got around to watching a lot of the movies that I just ended up missing out on, or just not being able to catch at the cinema. But I am very proud of the amount of movies that I did manage to catch this year. At the beginning of the year, I set out to do more of the things that I love in life, and one of those is film. It's one of my big passions that I've always had since a kid, and I wanted to use more of my spare time in just doing the things that I just love in life, and I wanted to use YouTube as that conduit to share that love and passion with you guys. And so I also wanted to spend more time at the cinema. It's like Chris Stuckman says, for us who love film, the cinema is our church, and it's my happy place. It's one of those places that I can just go to and just escape reality for a couple of hours, and I just love it. So when it came to compiling this list, these are my top 10 personal favourites. These are not the movies that I consider to be technically the best movies of the year. These are just movies that kind of really resonated with me in some sort of personal way. Movies that I were just really able to connect to emotionally and just had a lot of fun with, and these are my personal favourites. I have got quite a few honourable mentions, and a lot of these movies were at one point on this list, and so those are Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Killer, The Creator, No One Will Save You, Cobweb, Blue Beetle, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Babylon, Evil Dead Rise, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, and one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, along with Puss in Boots, and that is Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. This was in my top 10 list for quite a bit of the year, and so it was kind of tough not to include it because I really, really enjoyed that movie. It was a great movie. I've got a review up for it if you want to check that out. But it was a very pleasant surprise. I do have reviews for all of the movies within this list, and I will leave a link above if you want to check them out. This is not going to be me reviewing every movie. I'm just going to go and sort of briefly summarise what it is that I liked about these movies. And so yeah, let's get on with it. Enough rambling on from me. Let's start with number 10. And in at number 10 for me is Blackberry, which was also another very pleasant surprise. This film was incredibly funny. Don't get me wrong, I don't think the comedy within this movie, the humour, is for everyone, but for me, it was just perfect. There are moments where I just could not stop laughing. I just feel like they did so much right in how they explored the story of the rise and fall of Blackberry, and how they were just able to just sort of suck you into the story and keep you engrossed, or keep me engrossed anyway, for the entire duration. There was never a dull moment, and it was just a real pleasant surprise. Blackberry, if you haven't checked it out, please do. I really, really liked it, and I just had a really good time with it. So yeah, Blackberry is in at number 10 for me. And in at number 9, it's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is what you call good old-fashioned filmmaking, where you can actually see the action and the stunts happening on the screen with very limited, if none, CGI. And as a result, it becomes a much more fun and immersive experience. It's where the action really does swallow you up, and it just involves you with the action. Like that one scene with Tom Cruise on the bike going off the cliff, my stomach literally dropped. You could sense the love on screen and behind when it comes to how they've crafted this movie. And yeah, I just had a really good time with Dead Reckoning Part 1, and it's in at number 9 for me. And in at number 8, it's John Wick Chapter 4. Another good example of how you craft a fun and immersive action movie where you can feel every punch. John Wick Chapter 4 is just a beautifully made action movie with great cinematography. It has fun and imaginative fight scenes and action set pieces. I just love the way they use the camera in a lot of these moments. and you could just sense the passion behind and in front of the camera. You really do feel that passion, just like with the Mission Impossible movies. And also just the way they shoot the action, just like none of that shaky cam bullshit. You know, it just takes you out when you do all that sort of shaky cam nonsense. You see what's happening on the screen in all its glory. And yeah, just had a really good fun time with John Wick Chapter 4, and it's in at number 8 for me. And in at number 7 is Cisu. This movie took me back to my teenage years, growing up watching movies like Face Off and Con Air. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but I felt like Cisu was partly inspired by those 90s action movies, and I just had a real good time with this film. It's simple, it has a very simple, revenge story, based during the end of World War II, and I just loved how they used this time period and world to tell the story. It becomes more bonkers as it progresses, but it just reminds me again of those movies that fueled my passion for film as I grew up. It's fun, it's exciting, and you find yourself rooting for a character that barely utters a word. It's simple but great and clearly crafted with passion. Just like, the previous couple of movies I've mentioned, you can sense that passion on screen and behind. So yeah, Cisu is in at number 7 for me. And in at number 6 is Oppenheimer, a movie that I feel is technically stunning in every aspect, whether that be the way the narrative is structured, the sound design, the visuals, the writing, the performances. This movie was a highly engrossing and sensory experience. It's a movie that never slows down, even at 3 hours long. The narrative was structured in a way that just kept me immersed for the entire experience. It's a story, a movie that stays with you long after the credits, and like a lot of other movies I've already mentioned in this list, it's why I fell in love with cinema. It's what's going to the movies is all about, being lost within a story, and they achieve that here beautifully with the full 3 hours. And that's just how Nolan really did a fantastic job at structuring this narrative. Oppenheimer was a technical marvel, and it's in at number 6 for me. And in at number 5 is Talk to Me, a movie that completely floored me because I just wasn't expecting the experience that I did have with this film. When I came out to the showing, I literally gave a sigh of relief because it was like, fuck, what was that? And it's because of the way the movie hits you emotionally. It's a very tense and unnerving experience, and one that I just found emotionally draining in a good way. It takes a very common, familiar premise, it being possession, and it just does something very different with it and very refreshing. At the same time, it's a very intense, emotional and unnerving ride. It's a very tragic story, and that's the only way I can describe it. It's literally like a roller coaster ride where you get a sort of the mix of these emotions, and you just come out, well, I did anyway, out of the screen, and I was like, fuck, what was that? But in a good way, because what they do with this movie, what they do with this type of horror, is they do exactly what it should do, and that is make you feel uncomfortable and give you a very intense experience that hits you emotionally, just like a lot of other films that I've mentioned in this list. So yeah, I highly recommend Talk to Me, and it's in at number 5 for me. And in at number 4 is a movie that I just did not expect to love as much as I did, but this was just one of those experiences that really stayed with me long after the credits rolled, and that is Dream Scenario. Like 1 or 2 other movies that I've mentioned in this list already, it's not for everyone, and I can understand why, especially when it comes to the humour, but for me it just really worked. It's a smart story that takes on themes such as cancel culture, and Nicolas Cage in this film is simply superb. He gives this very captivating and mesmerising performance. The combination of the style of humour along with the tragic aspects of the story just work beautifully together. It's black dark comedy and it's done right. It's an experience full of an array of emotions. It's sad, it's tragic, it's funny, it's horrifying, and it just beautifully reflects the world we are currently living in, giving what is a somewhat dreamlike fantasy experience the groundedness it needs, so I was able to connect to these characters emotionally. It ends on a beautiful but sad note, and one, like I just said, that really kind of just stuck with me. I don't think the movie's for everyone. I don't think the humour that's in the movie will work for everyone, but this one really, it definitely left a mark on me, and I loved this film, and I loved Nicolas Cage in it. So yeah, Dream Scenario is in at number 4 for me. And in at number 3 is Saltburn. I adored Barry Keoghan's performance in this movie as Oliver Quick. He gives this very kind of mesmerising, edgy and quirky performance, and he just does something with this character when it comes to its mannerisms and his little nuanced expressions. It just really reminded me of Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. I'm not sure if he was in part inspired by Anthony Perkins' performance as Norman Bates, but that's how it came across to me. And Saltburn is an experience that is very much rooted in reality due to the themes it explores, but also does a really good job at transporting you into this very isolated, fantasy-like world of Saltburn. It's a gothic psychological horror that's grounded very much in the real world. It's a very sensual, sexually charged experience, and a very horny one. I loved Saltburn, and it's in at number 3 for me. And in at number 2 is a movie that we didn't get here in the UK until March the 23rd. I know the States had it a lot earlier, but it came out here in the UK in 2023, so that's why it's in the list, and it's Pearl. I adored this movie, and it was the first movie that was released in 23 that when I came out of it, I was like, wow, what an experience. Mia Goth is the standout. She's playing this very tragic character, and she just gives a real disturbing and just a very raw and real performance that I found mesmerizing to watch, just like this overall experience was. It's a very unnerving experience of watching a psychologically vulnerable character just breaking down. The movie just looks beautiful. They do a really good job at capturing this very kind of 40s, 50s look to the movie, which at the same time, for me, really elevated the horror and that kind of very tragic aspect to the story. It's Mia Goth's performance, along with the writing and just how this film is crafted, that really allowed it to be quite a really effective experience for me that I just enjoyed every moment of. Pearl is the prequel to X, and we are getting the sequel to X titled Maxine at some point this year, which I'm really looking forward to. I adored Pearl. I love what Ty West is doing with these movies, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the conclusion with Maxine. So yeah, Pearl is in at number 2 for me. And in at number 1 is a movie that quite literally stomped its way through this list, and it's Godzilla Minus One. This film is a epic and profound experience. It's a kaiju movie that puts the human element first, and it's why it was such an effective and immersive and emotional experience for me. The threat of Godzilla feels real, but it's all elevated to how well written the characters are and how very real and raw the performances are from the cast. This was one hell of an experience that I rushed back out to watch again in IMAX. It's an experience that took me back to being a kid again, lost in wonder and awe, and it just reminded me, like a lot of other movies in this list, why I fell in love with film and cinema. I just really adored Godzilla Minus One, and if you want to check out my full review of Godzilla Minus One, as well as every other movie that I've mentioned in this list, then please check out the links. I leave the links up here somewhere, so you can check out my full reviews of all the movies I've mentioned. But yeah, Godzilla Minus One comes in at number 1 for me as my favourite movie of 2023. And that's it. What are your favourite movies of 2023? Let me know in the comments below. Did you sort of question a lot of my choices? Is there something that you completely disagree on? Then please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews and top 10s and just general movie and TV talk from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I do have another top 10 video planned within the next week, and it's going to be my top 10 favourite moments in film from 2023. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all what were my top 10 moments in film from last year. A little clue. A lot of those moments are in movies that might have been in my top 10 favourite movies of the year. Not every one of them. There are moments in certain movies that I absolutely love that aren't in my top 10 favourite list. And also I'll have a review up for Night Swim, which releases at the end of this week on Friday. So a lot planned, and again, just thank you everyone for watching and subscribing and just connecting over the last year. It means an awful lot to me, and I'm just so proud of what I was able to achieve with the channel and what I was able to watch as well at the cinema. I set out at the beginning of last year to do more of the things that I just love in life, and I just feel like I achieved so much, especially when it comes to consistency with my channel, and I'm just looking forward to doing more into 2024 and watching more film in cinema. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.